Welcome to God's Powerful Son, your GPS, with directions to eternity, using references from the Life Application Study Bible, NIV. Here's your host, David Brower, a true believer.
Thanks, Alan. This is David Brower, reminding you that you don't need to take notes on this podcast, as the complete transcript is in the Our Blog section at gps2eternity.com. In this edition of Your GPS to Eternity, we'll introduce you to Samuel as a child. We may sometimes wonder about the childhoods of great people in the Bible. Seldom are we given much information about their early years. With Jesus Christ as an example, it was almost like he disappeared. And in the Bible, he did, for 18 years to be exact, from age 12 to age 30. But when he did come back at age 30, he, his disciples, and his followers changed the course of history, of religion, of mankind forever. Samuel was born as a result of God's answer to Hannah's fervent prayer for a child. In fact, the name Samuel comes from the Hebrew expression meaning heard by God. God shaped Samuel from the start by being with him as he grew up, and he let none of Samuel's words fall to the ground. Like Moses, Samuel was called to fill many different roles: judge, priest, prophet, counselor, and the man God wanted to use at a turning point in the history of Israel. God worked through Samuel because Samuel was willing to be one thing: God's servant. And all Israel, from Dan to Beersheba, recognized that Samuel was attested as a prophet of the Lord. The Lord continued to appear at Shiloh, and there he revealed himself to Samuel through his word. And Samuel's word came to all Israel. Samuel's life showed that those whom God finds faithful in small matters will be trusted with greater ones. He grew up assisting the high priest, Eli, in the tabernacle until God directed him to greater responsibilities. God was able to use Samuel because Samuel was genuinely dedicated to God. Samuel's strengths and accomplishments include being used by God to assist Israel's transition from a loosely governed tribal people to a monarchy. He anointed the first two kings of Israel, and he was the last and most effective of Israel's judges. In considering any weaknesses, he possibly could have done more to mentor his sons and guide them to maturity in spiritual matters. But with that said, did you know that he is listed in the Hall of Faith in Hebrews 11? Lessons we can all learn from Samuel's life include the significance of what people accomplish is directly related to their relationship with God, and that the kind of people we are becomes more important than anything else we might do. Samuel moved ahead because he was listening to God's directions. Samuel judges Israel well, saves them from the Philistines, and leads them back to God. But when Samuel retires, the nation does not want another judge. Instead, they demand to be given a king in order to be like the nations around them. Although God is unhappy about their request, he tells Samuel to anoint Saul as Israel's first king. Saul is a skillful soldier who is a failure because he constantly disobeys and does things his own way. God eventually rejects Saul as king. As with Saul and so many others in the Bible, sometimes we want to do things our own way rather than follow the ways of God. This will always end in ruin, as it did for Saul. Too often we ask God to control our lives while still hanging on to the goals we've always had. We ask God to help us get where we want to go. The first step in correcting this tendency is to turn over both the control and the destination of our lives to Him. The second step is to do what we already know that God requires, following instructions in His Word that apply to all of us. The third step is to listen for further personal direction from God through prayer, scripture, and wise counsel. We invite you to visit the Prayer Request tab on our website and let us know how we can be praying for you. If you ever have any suggestions or comments regarding what we share with you each week, just click the Contact Us tab, also at gps2eternity.com. Until next time, this is David Brower, asking you to remember that God's powerful Son is your GPS, providing you with directions to eternity.
You've been listening to God's Powerful Son, your GPS, with directions to eternity. Now you can find us using your voice command on Alexa, Siri, Google Assistant, Cortana, and Bixby. Just say GPS to Eternity. New podcasts with transcripts are available every Sunday morning at 8 a.m. Eastern Time at GPS2eternity.com. Thank you for listening, and may God bless you and your family.